Nomads are the safest people in America. What do you think of that statement? Seems kind of bizarre if you think about it. When I'm talking about nomads, I'm talking about people that live in their cars, their SUVs or vans, people that have trailers like we do. We live with a truck. We got a pickup truck and a travel trailer. Some people live in campers on the back of their truck or full-size RVs. Full time, they live out here. Live out in places like this where it's open. You don't know what's around you, what kind of wildlife, what kind of weather you're going to encounter. There's people out here too. There's other people. But this theory that I have, and it is kind of backed up by this Bob Wells video. If you've seen his channel on cheap RV living, he's got a really cool channel and you should definitely check it out. It's really inspiring, and he gives out tons and tons of information and details about how to live a nomad lifestyle. But that's what he said, was that nomads are the safest people in the country. And you would think that living in your car, you're going to encounter some sketchy people. And you might, but you have the ability to travel to safer places instantly. You can just turn your key and you're instantly in a safer place. There's a lot of cities that are, known for being dangerous. He talks about Chicago, and obviously there's a lot of violent crimes that happen there. He brings up some stats in his video about how in a certain county of Chicago, there's 4,000 violent crimes each year per 100,000 people. And he calls it apocalyptic, that rate. And, I think that makes a lot of sense. That is pretty bad. You wouldn't want to live there. You wouldn't feel safe. That's not the kind of place you want to be a nomad in. But if you live in a place like that, or any place, like the dogs and I, we came from Seattle. And Seattle's a pretty safe place, but we started seeing more and more sketchy things going on there, and I would go to some areas like under bridges and the city parks and things like that, and I started seeing needles and a lot of people taking dumps everywhere. And then there's people that have mental issues and even like more violent things, and people were saying things that were kind of violent and aggressive, more than I had noticed in the past. So coming out here, look at this place. Look at that up there. So the dogs and I, we've been doing this lifestyle now for over 2 years. And we've learned a lot. And there's definitely been times when I was scared out here, but the fears are different. It's mostly things that happen in nature. There's weather things that happen, and you don't have a lot of protection in a small trailer. If the winds pick up, you start rocking and rolling. Maybe you can't go outside because it's super stormy. And then there's animals, all kinds of animals like rattlesnakes and scorpions, and you're going to encounter that a lot more out here than if you were, like, say, in an apartment or in a house. I had an incident the other day, and I actually captured it on camera. If you go back and look at one of my recent videos, a huge swarm of bees flew over me and Echo. We were kind of tucked down in this little spot. Actually, it was right back here down this wash. And this huge swarm of bees flew over. And at that moment, I felt like, wow, I was like, that's one of the most scared moments I've had out here. I was scared. It only lasted an instant, 10 or 20 seconds or something. You can see that, it's all captured on video. So even though that was one of the most scared moments that I've had out here, I kind of think it was the most scared. I've had other incidents too, where someone who was hunting, they came into my campsite, right into my campsite, right next to my pickup, and they pulled out a rifle. And from where I'm from in Seattle, if someone pulls out a gun right next to where you're living, that's scary. So this happened in my campsite, and so my first instinct was I got really scared. But once I realized he was just a hunter and he was pointing his gun off at some deer in the distance, then I wasn't scared anymore. Wow. Look at, so where's our camp? There, that's our camp right there. And there goes somebody down the road in a pickup truck. So there's people out here. You do run into people. But if you look in the cities and you look at the violent crime rate, and then if you just drive a few miles, maybe it's 10 or 20 miles outside of the city, you're going to be in a new county generally, and the violent crime rate in that county, it drops dramatically. You can go to counties, and he talks about this in his Cheap RV Living video. Bob Wells talks about this, how there's counties in Nevada and they have like 1 or 2 violent crimes every year. And while that's bad, if you're boondocking in that area, then why wouldn't you feel safe? I mean, what's going to happen? You know, we're talking about violent crimes. Like, there are things like theft and stuff like that that can happen. And it doesn't mean you won't run into some sketchy folks out there. But as far as violent things happening in that area that you're camped in, it's super limited. There's somebody camped right over here. So you know, I have a neighbor. They're a quarter mile from my campsite. So you're not alone out here. It's not really about, the safety factor isn't really about like, well, there's just nobody around, so you're automatically safer. It's true, there are a lot less people out here. But the criminals, they're not out here. The violent people, they're not out here. So I'm doing my thing where I hike these sandy washes so I can look for rattlesnake tracks, because that's my biggest concern out here, really. You know, there's mountain lions and things like that out here as well, but it's really out here in the desert, it's the small things that you really got to worry about. So that's why I like hiking these washes. I do that a lot when I can find them. This is a nice wash too. You want water? I'm gonna give these guys water while I keep talking about my ideas as far as being safe out here. So let's say I was in Seattle still, where it's pretty safe. But I mean, there is stuff that happens there. It's a big city and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. I'm sure at some point in the future things will get better, but right now it's not. I think I forgot their water bowl. Did I forget it? I did. Okay, so what do I do if I forget their water bowl? Well, I have to give them water out of my hands. Echo, come here. Over here. You want water? Echo. Come here. Yes. Yes. Come on. Dodger, you want water? Good boy. Come here. Think about a criminal or some guy who's going to be violent. Some guy who's walking around with bunch of anger. Maybe he's got a weapon. Maybe he just wants to hurt somebody. Maybe he's a little crazy. They couldn't survive out here. You know, the dogs and I, we're used to being in the outdoors, and this is normal to us. Being in the city now, you know, I was good at that too, but being in the city now, I feel pretty uncomfortable. There's so much going on around you. There's all kinds of traffic. There's all kinds of people walking by. There's people trying to sell you stuff, people trying to scam you. I mean, it's awesome too. Don't get me wrong, like there's great things about the city. There's things, you know, that I miss. The food is one of the things. There's really good food in the city. There's cool places to go and cool things to see in the city. And they're not, if you go hang out in the city, you're not gonna die, you're not gonna get assaulted, but your chances are a lot higher than out here. That's just a fact. I mean, that's a fact. Especially when you look at where you start out in your van or in your RV and look at the crime rate there, the violent crime rate there, and then go one county over and look at the violent crime rate there, and you find some BLM land or national forest land, instantly you've reduced your chances of becoming a victim. So if you have any fears about the dangers of other people out here, they're not real. It's a safe place, and most of the people out here are doing the same kind of things we're doing. If it's not for, you know, long-term or full-time outdoor living, they're out here for the weekend, and they have all the same gear that we do, and probably nicer gear that we do. They're surviving out here in the same kind of manners that we are. So there's a lot of camaraderie, right? Like, and you're not going to run into people who can't sustain themselves out here for a longer period of time. It doesn't mean you want to be like walking into somebody's camp without announcing your presence, you know, that kind of thing. I'll tell you, one of the best things is having a dog, because I'm aware of my surroundings and the dogs are really aware, and they can hear things and see things a lot of times before I do. Sometimes I see it before they do or hear it before they do. And Echo has a really vicious bark, so yeah, I mean, he's gonna scare pretty much anything away, including, you know, mountain lions and coyotes and people. It's really safe out here as long as you have the right kind of gear. You know how to kind of survive out here. You got to have water and all your supplies and things like that in order. It's actually really safe. It's really safe out here. I mean, I'm just out here in the middle of nowhere right now. All I have is my backpack. I got a little bit of water. I got one candy bar in here, and I can hike back to my trailer. There's all kind of animals around here. I can hear some weird birds over there. There's lizards out here. I know there's rattlers around, which is the biggest danger out here. But it's safe. I feel really safe. I'm just sitting here in the middle of some wash that I've never been to before. You know, if I was just sitting in the middle of the sidewalk in the city, and I'm thinking of Seattle, which is a pretty calm, easygoing city for the most part. But if I'm just sitting on the sidewalk there's going to be people coming up. You know, I have to kind of keep my stuff close to me so I don't get ripped off. You just have to have your street senses. You got to have street senses if you want to just be hanging out on the street. You know, if you want to ride the subway or the bus or whatever, you got to have your street senses. Out here, you got to have your outdoor sense, your nature sense, your desert sense about you to survive, to live. He's a good dog. You got something in your paw? I think Dodger's got something in his paw. See, he's holding his paw up for me. He was doing a little limp. And yeah, you can see him limping. And he's holding his paw up. Dodger, wait. He doesn't hear that good as he's getting older. And I can't, usually I clap, but I can't do that while I'm holding the camera. That'll get him to stop. Dodger, wait. Dodger, wait. 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 Let's see what he's got in his paw. Wait. What do you got there in your paw? Just wait. Stay. Stay. See what you got in your paw. Good boy. Oh yeah. Wait, wait. This paw, right? Okay. It's kind of funny. It wasn't actually like a thorn, like a cactus thorn. That's usually what it is. It was like a spiny leaf. Yeah, it was like one of these leaves right here. But it was dried up. It's not really that spiny, but it was enough for him to warn me. It's peaceful out here. So peaceful. So check out the Bob Wells channel. It's called Cheap RV Living. I'll put a link to it down in the description. I agree with him. He's right. The nomadic lifestyle is the safest lifestyle in the country. The point is that it's people's like biggest concern whenever they hear about being a nomad. You know, living out on the road and driving from new campsite to new campsite and exploring all these different places that they haven't been to before. It seems like their biggest concern is safety. And people do talk about animals, but a lot of times, like when you're living in the city, you think about, oh, who lives out on the road? Who lives out in the middle of the desert? Who lives out in the woods? It's like creepy, crazy people. It's like dangerous people. It's like people that want to hurt you and steal all your stuff. And it's just not the reality. There are other dangers out here. It's mostly animals, you know, having breakdowns with your vehicle that, you know, you're gonna have to fix it, that kind of thing. That if you're in the city, those things can be easier. You're not gonna have animals in the city. You know, you got what, raccoons, squirrels, and that's about it. So there are other dangers, other things to be aware of. But man, if you live out here long enough and then you go into the city, it's like a culture shock. The way people live in the cities and the way people interact. There's a lot of things to see, a lot of people to meet, which is the good part about the cities. But there's a lot of angst and anger, and then there's also a lot of conformity and judgment. And then there's just danger. You don't know who is around the corner. You don't know if that person that you just met on the street is, you know, a crazy person or a druggie or someone with a weapon or someone dangerous or someone trying to steal your stuff. If you don't have the street smarts about you, it can be dangerous. I'm not trying to say that cities are bad. I'm just saying that the nomad lifestyle is not nearly as dangerous as it's made out to be by city folk. There's a lot of prickly pear out here, and this is, man, I get a little sketched out anytime I walk off the trail, just because I know there's snakes out here. But I wanted to see these flowers here. So that's just a little bit of got out philosophy today about safety when you're a nomad. Hey, if you like the Got Out channel, hit that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up button. Let us know you're watching, because we like to know you're watching. Check out some of my other videos if you want to see about some of the real dangers out here, like rattlesnakes. I got a few really good rattlesnake videos.